The video that you're about to watch has some really important people, and one of them is super, super important to me. He's been a longtime friend, a mentor, just an all-around legendary guy. His name's Phil Toney. This week is a really rough week because we lost Phil Toney this week. Phil Toney worked at AMC. He worked on the racing team for AMX. He's done so much, and he really specialized in the straight six. So he worked all the way up through the early 2000s on the Chrysler, on the 4-liter, and all the variations thereof, and did a lot more. So he was an engineer with the company. Middle of November, he came here to the shop when we were finishing up the YJL build for Quadratech. And we sat down with Phil Toney and Dave Thompson, Matt Conkle, Rob, myself, and kind of discussed the history of the YJ, how it came about, and some of the other things therein. And Phil Toney, Dave Thompson, they were both members of Lunatic Fringe. Phil Toney means a lot to a lot of people who've been in the off-road world for a long time. Stay tuned, watch the video, and learn a little bit about Phil and a little bit about Jeep history. Welcome to Unofficial Use Only. Right now, we're really, really fortunate to have both Quadratech here because we're doing a throwback build with Quadratech. And Rob came out to help us finish it up so that you can take it back. Yep. And we're really lucky because we have two of the engineers that worked on the YJ program. So we've got Dave Thompson to my left and Fuzzy to his left, also known as Phil Toney.
Now, why did you guys decide to get into a square headlight?
So, Ted Wentz, founder of Quadratech.
Yeah.
The whole reason that Quadratech came about was a YJ.
Yeah.
So he had his 89 YJ and he wanted to start working on it, start fixing it up, and started to realize that, getting some parts was a little bit difficult at times. And so he said, I think there's a little business model here. And started with soft tops and went on from there. So,
and that Jeep is still around today.
He's owned that Jeep. It has not changed. It hasn't been modified like crazy. It's just kind of been the family YJ that Ted has owned, and then his son Ted has kind of grown up with. And so, there's pictures of him as a little boy, and Ted's son is now our new CEO. And then this year is our 30th anniversary in business. And so we had a little idea to do a throwback build back to kind of where it all came from and blend that with some of the new technology.
So this particular one is the same color. So that's the 1989 Sahara tan. Yep. So we're basically kind of modeling some of this build after that particular Jeep, which they still have. And then once it's done and they take it back, they're going to show them off together.
Side by side.
Yep. So once we get it all together and back in Westchester, we can put them both in the shop there, and we can do our grand reveal with them side by side. So it'll be, some of it as a homage to the YJ, and then some of it as, we're going to go a little crazy with some new stuff. So that's a nice little tribute to kind of where it came from.
Yeah, YJ parts are back being hard to get a hold of right now.
Well, and
having two of them.
He's got probably one of the most beautiful red YJs you've ever seen with a supercharged straight six and a bevy of goodies.
Yeah.
And then another one that he's getting ready to put a 6.4 Hemi in.
Okay.
Two-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And
street.
Phil has a pretty famous one that's been in dozens of magazines. Mm-hmm. It was in one main. You had Phil Howell did a full article on it.
December 2008. Did a 6-page spread on my YJ.
Yeah.
I inverted it in Moab.
And then it ended up in lots of magazines because BDS used it as one of the not my suspension.
Way not to do things.
Yeah.
Without asking my permission, of course.
It's funny when you do that, you get a lot of publicity.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons that I asked you guys to come, so I'm really fortunate to grow up around these guys. I've only known them personally since about 2006. Yeah, I still haven't grown up. But, I've personally known them since 2006. My dad used to work with them. So some of the really cool things and some of the stories that you've told me, and I'll just hit on a couple of them and you guys can ad lib, and then we'll leave Rob and Matt to ask you a bunch of questions. But One that really got me was the AMC Eagle wagon and the influence it had on the YJ, because you've told me something about that.
The AMC Eagle wagon was a Roy Lund pet project.
But it was like the budget of the YJ was so small that they used the wagon's budget to help develop some of the parts.
Well, they couldn't package a right side pig on the axle. So they had to package the front axle with the pig on the left side of the engine, which means they had to flop the transfer case. But the Eagle budget didn't have money for doing the flop transfer case, but the Jeep budget did. So that's why the transfer cases got flopped to a left drop.
Yeah.
Was for the AMC Eagle.
Yeah.
Kind of a backdoor way of getting something done.
Yeah, but it worked.
It worked.
And then one of the other ones that I remember pretty distinctively, and it was years ago, but for some reason you were the reason for square headlights.
No, I was not. That was strictly design
But
studio.
you told some kind of story about one of the marketing guys talking about something with
the
the hood and stuff.
the headlights when we released it in Wickenburg, and they did the press release on it. The question came up was why square headlights, and the guy from marketing says, well, with square headlights we were able to lower the hood line in the front so you could see down in front a lot better, which was an out lie, but they bought it.
See, and things like that are just gems.
Yeah.
So I know Matt had a question you posed a little while ago, but
just going back to how when you're in the early '80s, you had the CJ.
Yeah.
CJ5 kind of died in '83 or so. You had the 6 going still, but then all of a sudden the YJ.
Well, the YJ was to fight the litigation on the rollover stuff, and that's why we did that. When the new frame came out of the woodwork, and somebody found out about it, they ended up having to do the YJ, and they had $50 million to do it with, and John Kemp was program manager at the time. He used to be head of our Mopar Performance at one time. Anyhow, they managed to do it for just a little over $50 million. So, and of course, you realize that most of the parts that are in there are still CJ.
Yeah, I know the early models of the '87, you could do interchangeable stuff between them.
Yeah, you can change the front fenders and
Just a front flip out.
yeah. And a lot of guys did that to get rid of the square
Yes.
headlights.
So the litigation that he's mentioning is, I think it was 60 Minutes did
did a rollover.
and they were testing CJs and proving that they were pretty easy to roll over. So that's where the litigation comes in. Is the company was getting sued for rollovers, and people weren't buying Jeeps like they should be buying Jeeps. So the engineering team was tasked with the project, and they ended up coming up with the YJ, which kind of launched what Wranglers are today.
Right.
Because it was the first one that had some creature comforts, and it rode better and it handled better, and it got a lot more people into the seat.
Right.
And look at where we're at today with JK just ending not long ago with how many millions sold, and now the JL just flying off the shelf.
I think when I was with American Motors when they bought Jeep from Kaiser Industries.
Yeah.
And I think their annual volume was around 90,000 units of everything.
Yeah.
And now they're selling over 1 million a year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Me and Matt were talking this morning a little bit about to think back the jump from the CJ to the YJ meant, something a little more livable, right? Try to sell it to people as it's more comfortable and, top and doors and, just something a little more luxurious.
I had an 86 CJ with a soft top and soft doors that when I'm going down the freeway, the gap between the door and the body sill was about an inch. I could watch the pavement.
Out.
Yeah.
I could watch the pavement racing by.
Yeah.
And I love my YJ because I could close the doors.
Right. Yeah. And
It's quiet.
it's funny to think now where we're at with the JL and
Yep.
And the amount of jumps forward we've done to now where
Yeah.
remote start and heated seats and automatic temperature.
Power windows.
Yeah.
Got computer touch screens, and you can
Yeah.
do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so it's a huge leap forward to think of,
And,
creature comforts.
Yep.
and Mark Allen finally got the windshield on the new one, so they can
Oh
put
yeah,
it down
it's a lot
easy.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost.
I used to yell at him about that all the time, and he did a clinic on it and told me, he says, you ought to be happy. The windshield's going to be easy to drop now.
You told us a story a little bit ago about how the first YJ didn't have a foldable windshield.
Oh, they built a mule up. The first one the design studios put together when the program started was they got rid of the fold-down windshield, they got rid of the hidden hinges.
No. They got rid of the exposed hinge.
But exposed hinges, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, you're right. The exposed hinges, they put regular like truck tail lights in the back of the thing. And the guy that had, Jack Wildman, the guy from Design Studios that had to go clinic it, he clinicked it in Colorado. And he said he was lucky to get out with his life. They weren't very happy with all that. So that's why everything kind of progressed back to the fold down windshield and the
Removable doors.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff.
And even today, the Jeep enthusiast customer base still has those same requests, right?
Oh, yeah.
When there's talk of when the JL was coming out, right? There was a lot of rumors going around of losing the solid axle,
Yep.
and it was
Oh, yeah.
like ready to storm the castle
Well,
with the pitchforks.
And there were just rumors. There was actually development bucks driving around with independent suspension
Right,
here
yeah,
in Michigan.
yeah.
But that's one of the cool features on the Jeep behind us. We brought back some of those things. We got rid of the minivan taillights that are in a JL,
Yep.
which are great taillights, but we ditched them and put the original YJ taillights back on it, and the fuel door, and so we added all those things to this.
back on it.
Yeah.
We did an April Fool's story a few years ago before the JL came out, saying how the new Jeep wouldn't have solid axles anymore, and people went nuts.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was- so that just shows you how dedicated the fan base is to the way it is built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people in the organization have the feeling that independent suspensions work better. They're better,
Mhm.
right? When we had the Mercedes people out running the trail out of Wickenburg, and they brought out the MLs. We had 3 MLs and had WK Jeeps.
Mhm.
The MLs were like tricycles. They only had 3 wheels on the ground at any time, and they're rocking back and forth. By the end of the day, the Mercedes guys all wanted to ride in the Jeeps.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, the low-profile tires got shredded.
Right.
Yeah.
When Chrysler bought AMC, and we started talking about the engineering guidelines for Jeeps, they said, you guys are crazy. Nobody uses a car like that. Well, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Some do.
Yep.
And even if they don't, they want to know that they can if they want to.
Yep.
Right.
That's sort of like, why does a Viper have an 8-liter V10 engine? Nobody drives 200 miles an hour, but they can if they want to.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Well, yeah, and you see that in the Wrangler market in general. Lots of vehicles are built. People buy a brand new Jeep and they take it home and they call up QuadrTech and they order all the parts they want, and it never leaves the pavement. And it's a coin-turned ball crawler. But the thing is, who cares? It's
Yeah.
your vehicle. You can build it however you want. The Wrangler is one of the most customizable vehicles in the world.
Yeah.
But if you build it right and you use the right parts, and the knowledgeable staff at QuadrTech will point you in the right direction, you can honestly build your dream car. Even if you never take it off road,
Sure.
it will be able to do it.
I have a 92 YJ, and it's slightly modified.
Yeah.
Anyhow, somebody asked me when I was out to Moab one time, they said, how long did it take you to build that vehicle? I says, well, I don't know. I'll tell you when I'm done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And did you get that one brand new?
Yeah,
The red one?
the red one.
So,
yeah.
and it really is. It's a gorgeous red one. And it's who's it? Avenger Supercharger, right?
Oh, yeah, Avenger Supercharger, which
Yep.
isn't around
You
anymore.
guys used to sell those, didn't you?
I
think-
think we did. It was
I don't know.
before my time.
Yeah.
Well, they've been
I don't
closed
think
for a
they
long
did.
time, but
Yeah, it's got ORI shocks on it, gas struts.
Mm-hmm.
It's a modified Black Diamond suspension worn kit. Started off with that and had to make a lot of modifications in it to get it to work right. And so the leaf springs, of course, went away, and track bars and all that other stuff. But it's 4-link in the rear. It does a really nice job. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And Phil's has been coming along. So
Yeah.
after his unfortunate flop, he went into
He tried to roll down on top of me.
a rebuild session. In fact, the chassis has been here, so we completely went through the chassis and welded everything in. A couple other guys, Steve Schluter, and who else worked on it?
Mostly Steve.
Okay, so Steve Schluter, who was also one of the original engineers and one of the original Lunatic Fringe guys, he put in a lot of effort getting everything lined up. So that suspension was converted from YJ over to an nth degree long arm with a stretch. So we stretched the front. And, I burned everything in. It's back at his place, all painted and ready, but I think we're going to bring it back over here real soon.
Bring it back over. I can't work on stuff anymore.
Phil needs to get back behind the wheel of it.
I can't get up off the floor.
And it's got some really cool things. It's J8 axles, so the military J8 axles. Phil Toney straight six, which Phil Toney's been known.
4.7 liter engine I built in 1991.
Yeah.
So he's been, kind of, for the people who are in the know, he's been one of the top names for strokers for a long time. He does a phenomenal job, but he worked in the plant where they built him in the first place. So.
We actually ran the first 4-liter strokers before 4 liters came out.
Yeah.
In '85, I worked for Renault Jeep Sport in charge of the engines, and we sponsored a fellow named Don Adams in the SCORE High Desert Racing Class 3 desert racing. Class 3 was a short wheelbase, unlimited displacement, and we put a 4.7 in it. The first non-V8 engine to win a race in that class.
Yeah.
And Don was leading the points when Renault pulled the budget. And then Don bought the car. I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah.
So anyway, 4-liter strokers go back to 1985.
Wow. Well, ultimately, we'd like to get a 4-liter of some variant under the hood of this Jeep. So we'll see it as a stage build process. Just everyththing is, right? Nothing's ever done. It's not like we would roll this out of here and that's it. Right. We're good.
No, it never happens.
So, we'd love to see, obviously the original YJ has a 4.2 in it that Ted owns. So the original plan was a 4.2, but who knows, maybe we'll see a 4.7 under the hood here. And,
well, we have a YJ, what year is John's? This is an 88. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a 4.2 with a 4-liter head fuel injection on it, and it runs great.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have a nice running, jump in, and not worrying about
Well, and I think it would be really cool, and this is just me, but to take, a base 4-liter or 4.2, and then use a bunch of the parts out of the Quadratec catalog, like an Eldebrock head and a few other things, to build a really nice engine to go in it. So, instead of just throwing in a ready to run, do it kind of the cool way.
Sure, right.
That's why Quadratec's around, so that people can do that.
Right, yeah.
The first Mopar kit that was built up on a fuel injection I worked on it, and we got it all done and it was running good. It was built out of this old durability vehicle or whatever, I don't know, YJ. I took it out to Phil's to show him. Well, he wasn't home that night. I went to the McDonald's drive-in, turned the thing off, went in, got something, came out, and the battery was dead. But that was one of the first kits that they put together, and that was really just made such a difference. I wanted him to see it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you ever got a chance to drive that vehicle or not.
I don't know.
That was so long ago.
I was enjoying driving the 4-liter Cherokee so much.
Yeah.
And what a difference that made in Cherokee sales when that engine came out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the YJ sales took off in '91 when they put the 4-liter in.
Yeah, I worked on the YJ program and stayed on it with the Grand Wagoneer because Grand Wagoneer was an old man's car. Nobody wanted that. And the YJ, they don't ride that good. Everybody wanted to be Cherokee.
Yeah.
So, that was the hot vehicle to work on.
Right.
Well, that's another cool thing. If you're into Cherokees, I still get the Cherokee book from Quadratech.
Yeah.
So whatever
Yeah.
Wrangler you have or Jeep product, you can get parts from Quadratech.
Yep.
One of the other really cool ones that these guys are very intimately aware of, and I don't know how much they got to touch it, but when Dave Yegi and Jim Rep were playing with the very first Rubicon, Yegi, who's a close friend of all of us, lives very, very close to Phil, and they did some of that in Yegi's garage and tinkered around, but you guys were right there. I don't know how much you had your hands in it, but I'm sure it was pretty deep.
The first one I got to deal, I had any contact with was the first mule that was made for TJ, and it had gone into Lowell Babcock's legal fleet, and Bob Lutz wanted to ride it on the Rubicon, and when Bob wants to ride a car on the Rubicon, it goes.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
anyway, Lowell and I got shanghaied to support Bob on the Rubicon. And Joe Cappy, who was vice president of International at the time, former president of AMC, he and his wife were there. And so Bob got to drive the first TJ mule across the Rubicon, and with us following right behind him. He had a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was quite a vehicle.
Yeah.
Big improvement over the YJ.
Right. To go from leaf springs to
Well, of course,
coils and
the big thing was when you got out to go with the Rubicon, it was the first thing you did. You crawl underneath it, you take the track bars off, and you unhook the sway bar,
Yeah.
and then it would flex.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, my boss, after we did the press release on the thing, the rear track bar on the one that we were driving back to Detroit was rattling. So I just took it off, and I says, "Well, you want me to drive it because it doesn't have?" No, he says that thing really rides nice with that rear track bar. I couldn't get him out of it.
I had my 87 out on the Rubicon, and there was a YJ in front of me driven by a couple of lawyers from California. And we got through the gatekeeper and up on the slab, and they kept getting the thing high-centered. Well, not high-centered, but articulated where the wheels would spin. And
No lockers.
no lockers.
Light bulbs.
and didn't know how to pick a line, obviously.
Yeah.
But the track bar came off real quick, and they made the rest of the trail without the rear track bar.
Yeah.
Do wonders when you get that track bar out.
Oh, that's the first thing that, somebody, I'd see somebody with a YJ or I would be somewhere and I say, if you take that rear track bar off, this thing will ride a lot nicer. Some Fitchel sack shocks on this thing. Good shocks. And you're off running.
Like when I take my JK out to Moab or Ouray, Colorado, and I forget to disconnect the sway bar. First time I go rocking, damn, I forgot to push that magic button.
Yeah.
When we first had the YJ out, Francois Castaigne had a YJ. And there was some issues with it. He brought it down. He says, I need I don't even remember what it was we had to do. There was something that had to be fixed. And I says, okay, I'll give you my synthesis vehicle. And I had a synthesis vehicle that had a variable ratio power steering, didn't have the 14-to-1 in it. So it wasn't darty, and it had track bars off the thing, and it had Fitchel sack shocks on it. And Francois drove it, and I gave it to him, and we worked on his vehicle. And the next day I gave him his vehicle back. He says, "You make my vehicle ride like that one." I says, "I can, but when it goes up for sale, you got to bring it back."
Yeah.
So yeah. But he kind of liked that. So, and then of course I got in trouble with the sound deadening in the door. I had the guys at Body Engineering told me there was supposed to be sound deadening in there, these strips.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the process sheets don't show that. He says it's coming, so it needs to be in there before the ride and drive. So I put it in there, and then Francois got his Jeep, and when he slammed the doors, they were noisy. And he says, I don't remember that on the management's And then I had to fess up to him that because they put it in there and then they took it out for cost savings right away. Meets, the goals as a weight and cost objective,
Right.
There's a lot of that on that vehicle.
Yeah, now to think of the creature comforts, so you
Oh,
close
yeah.
the door on a new Wrangler, right?
Oh yeah, you just touch the door and it latches. You don't have to slam it or anything.
A couple more years and you'll be able to do it on your smartphone.
Yeah.
We had
When I bought my 2005 Rubicon Unlimited, I had in mind how I wanted to build it, and I built it that way. And then I retired and couldn't afford to make the payments on it. And I sold it to one vice president at Chrysler, who sold it to another vice president at Chrysler, who Jim Rep has bought it now.
Yeah.
So it's still in the hood.
Oh yeah.
And I did the same thing when I went out to Moab and they unveiled the 10th anniversary Rubicon. And they had one there in front of Walker Drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I walked around and I looked, damn, this is gonna hurt.
And he's still modifying it today.
I came home and I wrung my hands for a while, and I went down to the dealership and I ordered it. I went down on a Thursday and filled out the order form. The salesman said it'd take 8 to 12 weeks to get it. Friday I had a VIN number. Friday I had a vehicle order number. Monday I had a VIN number, and I made some calls. It was built on Wednesday. So when it came in, he said, "How'd you do that?" I have friends in low places.
It pulled a few strings.
All those people are gone now. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, who's left? Out of the original Lunatic Fringe members, who's left?
Jim Rep.
Jim Rep. He's it, isn't he?
Not sure. Well, Mark Allen.
Mark
Luscombe.
Luscombe. Yeah, Luscombe.
Well, yeah. Luscombe doesn't own his own Jeep.
Yeah.
We, in reaction to the Daimler, the Germans, now the Chrysler people called us lunatics that use vehicles like this. But when the Germans came in, they had no concept of what real off-roading was. And they started this process of simplifying and taking cost out of the vehicle, and why do we have to do it that way? And so we decided to organize and go militant, and we formed the Lunatic Fringe. And we had worked with an embroidery place and had artwork done, and then made shirts and hats and coats and whatever to distribute among the people who were real Jeepers, who went out and Jeeped with their own Jeeps.
Right.
And we still have some of those people. I think Jim is the one that's left.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mark Allen, he's still there, and he gets a little crazy. He goes up to Canada and likes to drive through water.
Yeah.
They rolled one up there in the waterfall.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've had the pleasure of meeting Mark a couple times at the unveiling for the JL. And so it's nice to know that there's still some people that have that mindset of what the Wrangler means and what you can do with it, whether you choose to do that or not.
One of the guys that wasn't around when I was there, but is in Jeep marketing, is Brandon Dermis.
Yes.
You know him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Brandon owns his own Jeeps, and he goes Jeep.
Yeah.
So he's a good guy.
Yeah. Fucking people.
Very nice.
I remember reading a story when Daimler first came in, how they wanted to streamline everything and make it all business oriented. And I don't remember the name of the president, but he came in and he had his own little office and nobody ever saw him because he was up in his office the whole time. And that was one of the reasons why the workers kind of were went their own way.
Well, that was
was it Dieter? That name sounds familiar.
no, he was the
No.
last one.
Okay.
The first one was Jürgen Schrimp.
Yeah.
And Jürgen was a unique individual. Our Jeeping electrical guy, who happened to be a contract worker, but is an absolute wizard on Jeep electrics. After Jürgen got pushed out, he had a JK in Italy, and the dealerships there couldn't make it run. And Mark got sent over to Italy over the Christmas holidays to get his Jeep running. So he gets flown overseas, gets paid triple time, including travel time, and made quite a bundle that holiday.
So that's the
That's the old Lunatic Fringe.
Yeah.
Solid axle.
yep.
See, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Steve Schluter gave me this one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Proud member.
Proud member.
Yeah.
And we distributed that to the people in the organization so that when we would go to design meetings and planning meetings and so forth, we would wear our shirts
Right.
so that they knew where we stood.
Yeah. No hiding it, right? Wear it proud. And,
Oh, yeah.
They even had, at that time, Craig Love was the vice president of engineering, and he wanted a shirt too.
Yeah.
And I gave him one, and there was another fellow that I won't mention the name that wanted a shirt. And I told him no, he couldn't have one because he had to earn it.
Yeah. Yeah, they presented me with one when I was down in Kentucky and laid my Jeep over on its side. They had a picture of one of them with it. I got a shirt that's got a picture of a Jeep laying on its side.
I got my first one when we were at Luscombe's Customs, working on Jim's Rep's Yellow Submarine.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first shirt that I got, and then SEMA 2016. Schluter gave me a couple. He actually mailed them to me.
Yeah.
He said I really earned them with that build.
Yeah.
SEMA 2016. What did you have
Half
there?
killer.
Oh, okay.
That's my first year seeing.
It was in 17 that you took Frankenbrute.
Yep. 17 was Frankenbrute.
Okay.
And actually, both of these gentlemen came with me that year.
Yeah.
Just seeing.
Yeah, that was watching him drive a
Rat Rod.
rat rod.
Yeah.
He's out there playing down the expressway, speeding and everything else, going around having a good old time.
Yeah.
It was
And
fun.
here comes this cop right up, just kind of looks at him, just kind of,
No, he gave me a thumbs up,
yeah, that was what it was, a thumbs up.
and I was grossly exceeding the speed limit.
Yeah,
Um,
but he could see we were all together, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't bother you.
that was in Texas.
Yeah, northern part.
Yep. Yeah, it was funny because I'm flying along and he gets up next to me. And the limo tinted window rolls down, and all I see is that big giant hat. And he looks and he tips the hat and he gives me a thumbs up, and then he goes faster than I was going.
Oh, when he went by me, I said, "Uh-oh, Greg's in trouble."
Yeah.
And then he just went on.
So when the YJ first came out, Jeep's 45, 46 years old, from 41 to whatever. And here we are now, 2020, still going strong with Jeep in its 80th year. When you're working back at AMC at that point, could you foresee this going on for so long?
Not really. It's
We wanted it to. But
we wanted it to, but the explosion of volume has just been we hadn't considered. Because if you go back when I first started driving Jeeps in the early '70s, and they were pretty crude machines, and now they're very sophisticated and very comfortable. And I have a JK Unlimited and hardtop, and I can't ever conceive taking the top off. I like rolling the windows up, putting my climate control on automatic temperature control, and enjoying the trail.
Yeah.
We got some stuff. If you ever take that top off, we can store it for you.
I've got the hardtop off of my '87 still up in the roof of my
Pole barn.
pole barn, using Mike Smith's hoist that I've been storing for 18 years. And,
We had talked with Mark Allen a while back, and he told us that when the JK came out and they went to 4 doors for a version of it,
Yeah.
it pretty much saved the line, in his opinion. When you're working on the YJ, maybe that saved the Jeep as well, because you open up a door for a lot of new people too.
well, there's been a lot of major changes that have happened that have helped the line out. Of course, TJ had more creature comforts than YJ. It did the TJ Unlimited, which was more comfortable to ride than the standard TJ. And then when the 4-door came out, the market just blew right up because so many people had families and even like me, I go by myself, but I carry a lot of crap with me, camping gear and trail tools and so forth, and it's more comfortable. And I was working the Jeep Jamboree up in Drummond Island one year when the unlimited JKs first came out and the Patriots came out, and we were up there for a week prepping the trails and going through orientation, and there was joking going on amongst the guides about who was going to get the short stick that had the 4-door JKs and the Patriots in the group, because the loser got them.
Yeah.
There's tight woods up there on Drummond Island, and the 4-doors don't get around too well, and of course Patriots don't get around anywhere.
I can't give up on my YG. I gotta keep it going. So.
Well, now the market has just exploded with 4-doors. It's almost a rare sighting
To see it.
to see a 2-door out on the trail. And now the Gladiator has gotten even longer, and you're seeing them out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's a different
Yeah,
world.
I distinctly remember, because I was young into Jeeps and I loved them and they were my hobby. But I had a completely different job. I did nothing with Jeeps. I was actually a union bricklayer, and I had just started playing around with some of these guys who were all friends with my father. And I remember when they were first launching the 4-door, that was the thing, is that everybody was complaining that there was going to be a 4-door and that it was such a bad item, and they didn't even think they were going to sell many of them. In fact, in the very beginning, they produced more 2-doors than 4-doors.
Well, I'm going to reinforce your story, but I'm going to back up a little bit.
Okay.
You go back to the Rubicon Wrangler. Marketing asked the question, who in the world would want to spend all that money on a Rubicon? And the program got funded for 6,000 units or something. Well, 6,000 units were gone in about a week. And on up. Then the 4-door, let's see, there was one other thing, but the 4-door is the same thing. Go back to the 4-liter. In the Cherokee, marketing said for 87 model year, the 4-liter will be 20% of the volume, the 4-cylinder will be 80% of the volume. Guess what?
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
The exact opposite, because you know what? When people mash the pedal, they like to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then the 4-door JK came along, and all of a sudden, all the serious guys, I don't know how quick it was, but the serious guys out west got those 4-doors and got them modified, and that was their trail rig.
Yep.
I remember when Curry got his, John Curry.
Yep. Well, I remember, the company that I had started with at the time, which was AEV, I started right before Easter Jeep Safari. So we were prepping Easter Jeep Safari, and we built a couple brutes, TJ brutes. One was Dave Yeage's Viper Blue one, and then the other one was Michael Chakuti's, but it was a black one. And we got both of those ready, and then a 2-door JK, because we were one of the first companies to have stamped steel hoods and bumpers and stuff. And the vehicle that the company chose to buy was a 2-door, because at that time they still didn't think people wanted the 4-door. And within a couple months, everybody's mind was blown, because all the 4-doors left the dealer lots and the 2-doors still sat there. And it just, that trend has continued till today. But they're longer, they're a lot smoother of a ride. They're not an old school Jeep like we like, but man, they're beautiful to drive.
But that's typical marketing. I remember I got pulled off the YJ program when Chrysler bought us, and got stuck on the truck program, and I was standing there with this guy in marketing putting the Cummins diesel together, and he says, "You'll be lucky to sell 8,000 of those things." He says, "And you think you're going to sell 12,000? Who in the hell would want one of those damn things?" We sold 18,000 a year, and the only reason we didn't sell more is Cummins couldn't supply the motor.
Yeah.
So those guys are not the best,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wealth of stories. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
and
fantastic.
every time they come over, I hear other little snippets, and it's just a blast.
So what do you guys think of this conversion?
I love it.
Greg does good work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, if I wasn't so bad, he wouldn't look so good.
That's why I sold my welder and all that stuff. I decided I'm not a fabricator. Greg gets to do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've all come to that conclusion.
You can only see the front from here, but we did the YJ conversion. We did the in the headlights and square lights. The bumper, I wanted it to really kind of be reminiscent of the original, so it has the basic overall shape. But instead of plastic end caps, these are solid steel, which is like the new 10th anniversary or the newer bumpers. But they are removable, so it's a little wider than a mid-width and then a little tiny bit longer than a stubby. But and then the back end is, to me, where it really shines, because I did the back bumper with the bumperettes. We did the fold-down license plate with the fuel filler behind it, and the original taillights. That stuff is.
Did you do the fold-down tailgate?
Yeah.
Like I did on my YG.
No.
My YG, I put a CJ tailgate back there because
No,
we
this
go out on the trail and where do I set my food?
Yeah.
This one had to have a space for the 37-inch Mickey Thompson tire. We couldn't get rid of that.
Yeah.
And that's another cool thing, and I want to show you guys these while we're all sitting here, but I'll roll it up in front of you. So this is Quadratech, and I didn't even know about these wheels until just now, but they've had them for about a year. But it's kind of a throwback wheel, so it worked great for this project.
Oh, yeah.
But so modern wheel, but with the look of an old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a wagon wheel.
Yeah.
Wagon, a steel wagon wheel look to it, but
It isn't black.
not black.
Well,
we offer it. We sell it in black and white.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple center cap options. You can do more modern, some dude kind of look, or you can do a big center cap that looks like a
Everybody's doing black wheels now, and for me, doing all my durability vehicles, the wheels were painted black, so you couldn't tell what they were like.
Yeah.
So I stand there and look at black wheels. Oh,
Yep. So we wanted to,
those are nice looking wheels.
Well, and they really
do a
fit the
color
theme.
match. And they.
Well, black wheels evaporate less than shiny wheels do too.
Yeah.
We always had trouble with stuff evaporating in the middle of the program.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of history and some of the stories. I'm sure
It
we'll
was.
talk all afternoon.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun program back then, and of course, like I say, we had to do it with no money, so you were always borrowing and stealing.
Well, I've seen pictures from, old school engineering pictures, but, they pop up every once in a while. I think I saw a picture, and I don't remember if it was a gremlin or what it was, but, car driving down the road, engineer leaning out over the hood that wasn't there to do some kind of tuning on the engine.
Well, that was Dick
Yeah.
Lowry.
Oh, you know who that was?
Oh, yeah.
That was.
Yeah, Dick.
We had a hot fuel handling problem in the YF carburetor, and so they made up a plastic top to the carburetor, and Ron Coffey got to drive the car down while
Dick Lowry.
Dick was standing over watching what the liquid was doing in the carburetor, holding on for dear life as he raced down the East Drive.
You can't do that anymore. No. There'd be a team of lawyers right in the van behind you screaming.
Oh,
at you.
OSHA does not approve that. No.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like
It
to get back and be able to do some of that crazy stuff and not worry about all the legal safety.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we did the, right after, of course, the YJ launched and all that, we got into some of the military stuff. And we had one of the scrambler style build up for the military with a YJ suspension and everything else on it. And Leon Neal and I took it out to Island Lake Recreation Area to drive the thing, and I came off this one hill, and the overhang was so bad that I jammed it in on the edge of the hill and was standing there with the rear tires off the ground. I said,
I think I might have seen one of those. I remember in Lowell's old building. I think
Yeah.
he had one of those.
yeah,
And I think he had a 4-door too, YJ.
yeah. John Kent drove the one of the military ones. He said it was all the OD green and everything else. He says that's really a neat vehicle. He says everybody looks at me and waves. But
Well, a little tidbit of information. YJs are popular. When I was in Hanoi in the summer of '96, the Hanoi Police Department had a YJ fleet. That was their police car.
Yeah.
See, and I was fortunate growing up here in Michigan, and my dad working with these guys. I still remember I was 14 years old at the local movie theater because that's what we did every Friday night. And we're standing out front, everybody's hanging out, and my dad pulled up in a Cherokee, but it happened to be state police blue with the lights and the sirens and the spotlight, and that's how he got my attention. Yeah. So thank you very much for letting my dad borrow that and humiliating me. But it's a great place to be, Michigan. We have wonderful resources like these guys and the Big Three. So it's really cool to be able to invite you guys in and meet my friends from Quadratech and see what we're building. You don't understand how unbelievably gifted I feel to learn stuff from you guys.
Yeah, and we could.
I might be able to outweld you, but you've got so much information, and I just love hearing about it. So I really want to thank you.
And we couldn't do this kind of stuff and do what we love to do today if you guys didn't start the Lunatic Fringe and you didn't keep that fire going and keep it burning and get to the point to where the brand has evolved and there's a whole new generation of people that are still tinkering and modifying and pushing the limits of what they can do with
Well, they
this.
still are.
Yeah.
He's putting a 6.4 Hemi in a YJ, and he's got a beautiful JK and a YJ that is going to have to come over here to get put back together. But it's pretty famous already. It's been in magazines, and hopefully it'll be in another one again.
When I get mine
Is
down,
Phil
the
Howell
Hemi
still
frame might come over.
publishing?
That's okay.
He does stuff from time to time, yeah.
I got a motor mount.
Editor at large, I guess, for.
I know there's going to be some
I
water
haven't talked to him in a while, but he did that article on mine in the '08. Now, mine was in December of '08. Dave's Jeep was on the cover of the January '09 issue. Because we had a Moab trip where Phil was out there with his camera.
Mm-hmm. He's a good dude. I've met him a few times.
Yeah.
Real good guy.
Yeah.
He cheated too. He took
I've got a stack of magazines.
all the
in my
stuff I
cupboard
wrote
where
up
I've
on
got
a thing and put it in the magazine.
Chinese.
And I says, I didn't get any credit for that.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, you think of all this new generation of Jeepers going back and loving the old YJ. What does it make you feel like as you were a part of that program?
The problem is everybody that's got a YJ that I know, they all complain about not being able to get parts. So that's your fault.
Yeah.
No, there's still a fair amount of stuff up, but
Well, I'll tell you, on this, and I'm sure that some of the parts are good, but the headlight buckets, the trim rings, the latches, the tow hooks, all of the stuff on the back end, they're all brand new parts right out of the Quadratech catalog. That allows you to convert this into a YJ.
How easy is it to steal those?
oh no, wait a minute.
So those are actually Quadratech exclusive.
Oh yeah.
So Quadratech makes these, and they're LED and they're projector style,
Yeah.
but they actually have the heating element.
Yeah.
So here in Michigan, when you get that wet snow that sticks,
Oh yeah.
that automatically melts it off.
I got some.
I know
Marshalls.
a guy that might be able to get you a deal on those.
I got Marshalls in mine, the old French lights left over from French program,
Yeah.
and I put LED light bulbs in it. It works out pretty good, and I don't drive the thing at night, so it's not that big a deal. So it's
You could eat off of his engine. And
We were up in Canada on the Mud Fest. The lady at the motel up there said, "Why do you guys always come up here during monsoon season?" Well, I don't know. We must be dumb. But anyway, we come back through Sault Ste. Marie after a weekend of mudding, and the U.S. guy won't let us in until we go back and wash some of the mud off. He doesn't want Canadian parasites or whatever coming in. So we get home late Sunday night. I go over to his house on Thursday. His Jeep's in his garage, and you can't find a speck of dust on it at all. It's just absolutely sparkling. I hate you.
yeah. Well, wait a minute. What he did to me, he had just gotten married or so, and he's going to Canada. Instead of taking his wife, he says, "Why don't you come with me?" I says, "Okay." So I go up there with him, and of course it's muddy, and he broke the airlines for the lockers. So, and things weren't working, and it was getting stuck, and it's raining, and it's nasty out. And who's he got to get out of the car and run up and put the tow rope to the next guy ahead to pull him out?
Yeah.
I said, that's what you brought me up here for, because your wife wouldn't do that.
Was that a TJ?
That was his YJ.
Oh,
That was his YJ, yeah.
My 87 YJ was the first YJ, was the first Jeep at Plymouth Road to have a 4-to-1 transfer case
And air lockers.
and air lockers on both ends.
Well, I was just
And
harkening back to the
yeah.
TJ with
And I would let
that
the
was in the TJ.
executives
Oh, yeah.
You
drive
could
it.
pull the line off
I
and
said, boy, this is
Oh, yeah.
easy to drive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, the transfer case makes a big difference there. You asked about what was one of the factors for contributing to the explosion. Well, the Rubicon Wrangler was a contributing factor because with the lockers and the 4-to-1 transfer case, they were so easy to drive off-road that anybody could get in and drive one.
Yeah, you didn't have to pick a line anymore. You could just drive up a wall.
And the one thing I learned from that little experience too was that you didn't run the plastic line down to the axle. You got the good line kit put in there. So when I got home, one of the first things I did was order a set of air locker, the heavy duty line.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I've fallen melody to that. I still have the plastic lines, but conveniently I order the line repair kit from
Yeah.
Quadratech, and I keep 2 of them in my glove box.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
again,
but see, you can crawl underneath there. At our age, we can't crawl underneath the car, do that easily.
I'm almost to the point where crawling underneath isn't as much fun.
And I'd still be there if I crawled underneath.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Other than that,
Yeah.
we've,
Still rolling.
Still
okay,
rolling.
I'll save some comments for later.
He can edit anything out.
I was gonna say, for crying out loud, will you guys put a friggin' index in your catalog?
Oh!
I sat next to your marketing guy
Yeah.
at dinner at the Moab Brewery years ago.
Yep, I did too.
Years ago, I can't remember when it was. I've been going to Moab for 24, 25 years. I sat next to your marketing guy and complained about not having an index in the catalog.
Mhm.
And he was absolutely adamant that he would refuse to put one in there. I don't have time to leaf through a 360-page catalog for the one friggin' part that I want.
But if we put the index in, then you would go right to that part and you would flip by all the other stuff we want you to buy too.
Well, see, that's
when
a
I got
nice thing.
time.
That's a nice thing about the computer, having a computer or laptop. I just stand there, Quadratech, okay, I want to shock, and it comes up.
Well, that's exactly what I do. I even had myself taken off the mailing list for catalogs because I didn't use them.
Yeah.
Well, I still do, because I stand there at night, I'm bored, and I just kind of go
Yeah.
through it.
That was,
I says, too bad they didn't make that for my YJ. Yeah, that'd be nice.
that was the whole idea, right? Have
Well, you
ever
should get the
noticed
YJ catalog.
Well, I got
all
that one too. That
all
one they
the
used to have.
replacement
Still
stuff,
like that?
right? That's all the way in the back.
Yeah.
You go all the way in the back for the part that you broke that you need,
Yeah.
but for all the fun stuff, we put all that up front.
Yeah.
Oh, I enjoy leafing through the catalog. I get ideas. It hurts my wallet,
Yep.
of course.
Yeah.
And I add this and I add that, but
That's
when I'm
what
working
gets us
on
to go to Moab though, is when you buy stuff like that, we get to go to Moab.
But and going through the catalog, I came across the TJ fender flares for the YJ.
That's right.
Yeah, and I bit the bullet out of the nose. Of course, they were black, and my Jeep's red, so I had to paint them. A friend of mine painted them for me. But that, of course, that was right after. I think that was right after I laid it over on its side and had to be painted in.
Yeah.
So.
Well, again, this has been absolutely amazing and great, and luckily I get to do this all the time.
Yeah.
So this is more of a treat for you guys.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
again, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for your input on this, and thank you for everything that you've taught me over the years.
Yeah. Thank you so much for stopping by today. It's great to be able to sit and chat with you guys for a little bit about what we're working on. And
Now we're going to go to the tattoo store and get him a Lunatic Fringe tattoo.
Let's go.
Yeah.
cool.